Welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast, the podcast that's been trying to tell them that they have no idea how high this goes. This week on Heart and Hand, the most discussion about Dallas since Who Shot JR. So welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name's David Edgar. I'm your host, as always, and I'm joined this week by two of the legit heavyweights of Heart and Hand, one literally and one figuratively. First of all, the delectable Mr. Cameron James Bell.
David, pleasure to speak to you as always.
And joining us from our Tactics show over on the Patreon site, it's Tactics Spod himself, Mr. Adam Thornton.
Hello guys, how we doing?
Not too bad. So to Saturday, gentlemen, Rangers taking on St Mirren at Ibrox. First of all, before we go into what has been, I'm sure, the reward of prayers from many in the media, because it's given them 4 days worth of shite to talk about, let's just caveat everything by saying St Mirren are fucking awful, Adam.
They are, and I think that's been lost in the furore that they are very, very bad and very much going down. I would be shocked if that isn't the case.
I mean, they are the worst team I've seen in the SPFL this year. They are atrocious. Rangers would have beaten them regardless. It just was never going to happen. So I think that has been lost in the furore, and I think it's allowed them to kid themselves on, Cammy, that, if it wasn't for all these penalties. No. Trust me, you were always getting beat. You are shite.
Yeah, and I think the shame is that, and we will obviously come on to it, but in the second half, their keeper made some absolutely outstanding saves. It sounds bizarre that he's walked off probably their best player, but having conceded 4 goals. And it could have been a lot more. And I think his defence in front of him have done him absolutely no favours whatsoever. But yes, they are honking.
Rangers went in with the diamond that we've been playing off and on in recent weeks, going with a 4-4-2 diamond, changing to a 4-4-2 in the second half with wingers, and that seemed to get us a little bit more in terms of attack. Now, a couple of things. Adam, the manager, made the changes. I, first of all, think that the 4-4-2 or diamond or whatever, or any formation change, is beginning to become a bit of a thing in the minds of Rangers fans. And while I would agree that we've certainly looked better in 4-3-3, we've played 4-3-3 plenty and looked awful. I think that there's nothing wrong with experimenting. I just feel that slightly some people are saying that, or are beginning to think, no, all other formations are wrong. We've got to play this way. And I'm not sure that we've been good enough playing the 4-3-3 for that to be the case.
Well, it's a comfort blanket, isn't it? People point to the games that we did very, very well with a 4-3-3, Celtic, Maribor, Rapid Vienna, Hearts twice, and think, well, that worked really well in those games. Why can't we just play it all the time? But they forget the games where we did nothing and crossed the ball insane amounts of times against Dundee, Hamilton. There's a song there, but I'm not going to go for it. Okay. Livingston away. So there's been good and bad. I think it's probably fair to say it's been equal measures good and bad. However, I don't think it's unrealistic to expect that we can A, change formation, and B, get more attacking players in the offensive third, which is something we struggle with. And to me, the Kelly game was absolutely the wrong time to do it. That's twice this season he's introduced a new formation against a team that I don't think it's very well suited to. However, Cowdenbeath on midweek last week and this game, to me, are games where we don't need to dominate the centre of the pitch as much, because, as you said, they are absolutely crap, St Mirren. Therefore, it was a bit of an opportunity for us to play 2 up front, kind of try and lose that, or not lose that midfield battle, but we're not going to get swarmed in midfield, and basically go for teams and try and get an early goal and hammer them the way that we should. The 4-3-3 is probably built more for suffocating teams, or the way that we play it for being reactive and countering teams. You couldn't counter St Mirren. They were like, it's impossible. So the one example I'll go back to is the Dundee game. They were just as poor as Dundee, I felt, offensively. However, what Dundee did was they sat so deep that the 4-3-3 just got totally nullified. So yeah, I'm seeing a lot of that. We should switch back. It's a comfort blanket. Let's go back to 4-3-3. But I think we need to look at each game in isolation and decide what the best approach is for each game. There are games that 4-3-3 will be perfect, like Aberdeen and Wednesday for me, and we'll come on to that. But in other games, it's only natural to want to get a bit more offensively.
Certainly, Cammy, against a team of the quality of St Mirren at Ibrox, I'm not going to complain about having one less defensive midfielder to get in one more striker.
No. I'll remind you both that given the furore that we're about to talk about, we'll have plenty of listeners from the other side of the city. So I'd ask you both to keep your sectarianism to an absolute minimum.
All right, okay, but what is a minimum, though? I mean, all right, say 60 minute show, 10, 12 minutes.
At least 57 minutes worth of absolute chanting and singing of songs that would probably get you a weekender.
Right. Okay.
I think against teams like St Mirren, you're absolutely right. You can play, I think, around with your formation. I don't ever disagree with Adam when he's right, because you need to be able to use your resources. You need to be able to use your players in the formations that suit them best. And obviously, I think the correct thing to do was to drop Candace. We didn't have to go gung-ho against St Mirren. We could play with a diamond that, to cause and effect, worked. I mean, the penalty decisions aside or whatever else as well, it could very possibly be argued you have to be able to get into offensive positions in order to be awarded a penalty. So therefore, I'm perfectly happy with them being able to trial things like that, because St Mirren won't be Hibs, they won't be Hearts, they won't be Aberdeen, where you have to use a slightly more pragmatic, more proven formation and use your resources accordingly. So no, I'm happy with it. When he starts getting mental and playing three at the back with a hexagon and one up top, then maybe we'll have to have another conversation about it. But for games like Saturday, it was perfectly fine to be able to do that and potentially do some tinkering, potentially get players used to that system, etc. as well. So no, I was happy with it.
And David, just to kind of follow on from Cammy's point there, I think I've seen a bit of complaints online about how the midfielders that we have, we don't feel are suited to a 4. I think that's potentially right in terms of the wider 2. Arfield probably is suited to that. He maybe does his better work further forward, and again, Davis maybe does his better work further back. But it's kind of less about them. It's kind of more about, like we said, they're getting Kent centrally and causing havoc as he did on Saturday, and getting Defoe and Morelos in there and allowing Tav and Barisic to go further forward than they have been without kind of getting. I know they work quite well with a partner, as we've seen, but allowing them free rein. So it's almost as if the midfield can just get through it and not cause anything. You've got McCrory sitting there, the midfield 2, you really just need them as ball carriers to get forward, but it's more about the other benefits it gives to the team outside of that, for me.
Yeah, there is no perfect formation for us that suits everybody. There are certain things in each one that you go like, well, if we play with Candace in front of Tav, I think that makes Tav a lot more solid, for example. Yep. I would counter that and say when you're playing St Mirren, that really shouldn't be, at Ibrox, that shouldn't be your number one concern. You know, protecting your fullback. So it's different things for different games. I think it does go back to a point you made right at the start of the show, Adam, which was there are times and places. And had the gaffer gone in 4-3-3 against Kelly, 4-3-3 against Livingston, tried this diamond the last 2 games, everyone would have understood. I think it was the fact that he tried a new formation at Kelly. Had it worked, he'd have been a genius. It didn't work. He gets criticism, and such is the life of a professional football manager. But back to the game, it barely started when some really good link-up play, Cammy, really good link-up play between Alfredo and Jermaine Defoe, which was very heartening to see when Alfie, who was excellent all day, Barry's shooting, but had a tremendous game overall, he did what he does so well, which is just batter through the opposition defence wide, cut inside, played the ball back to Jermaine Defoe, who took a touch and was summarily halved by the St Mirren defender. I don't think there's much doubt about this one.
Well, there's not. And I'm so pleased that Michael Stewart agreed that this was a penalty, because you know, since watching it on Saturday afternoon, I mean, I've lost, 2 nights worth of sleep until I got to hear, Michael's opinion. It's the most blatant of all the penalties. I'm not too sure about the St Mirren lad. I know that following obviously on in terms of some of the reviews, I think that's he's a player who's kind of prone to making some of these mistakes just because I think he's a bit younger and it was a bit of a daft challenge. And listen, do you know what? It happens. We've just mentioned Ross McCrory. He's done not dissimilar in his past before. But again, Morelos makes the absolute difference here, and thankfully seems to be playing a bit better with others. I think is probably the best way that I can kind of describe that, because he can come in and he can absolutely ragdoll any defender, whether it's centrally or on a wing. And as soon as he comes in, lifts his head up as well, he starts looking for options. And Defoe's feet so quick, moves it away from the defender, and he calls the defender into making that challenge, which he duly does.
Yep, man. Excellent penalty from James Tavernier, as always, puts it away. And then Rangers, Adam, a phrase I used at the weekend and I stick by it, it was almost as if St Mirren had lulled us into a true sense of security, because Rangers, having scored so early, I think didn't quite get up to, the manager said afterwards that he felt that in the first half they were sloppy. And to be honest, it was almost like it was too easy. And that's a trap we've got to avoid. You can do that when you're 3-4 up, but get 3-4 up first. It was almost like Cowdenbeath on Wednesday, that they switch off, and in the first half they just could not really get anything going in that opening 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's, as a wise man says on these pods, the most important goal is getting the second goal, and that just
was saying that to young James and Stuart walking into the ground, so we've got to get the second. But
it's true, because you're right. It can go either way in these games for us. We get the first goal early doors, and that's the catalyst for us to go on and give teams a pasting. However, sometimes we get it and we do get a little bit flat, and we get lulled into not believing our own hype, but thinking, well, we got the first goal, great. We struggle to get the first goal sometimes, but really we want to kill it off. And you're right, there was a couple of decent bits of play, but nothing really overall until the second penalty, I should say. I was going to say second goal there, but the second penalty. I think actually, just to go back to the first one a little bit, Defoe actually takes quite a poor touch when Morelos plays the ball in, which I think maybe gives, is it Erhan or Erhan? I'm not sure what the St Mirren guys.
I think it's like Airhorn. It sounds a bit like Airhorn.
So I don't know if that maybe gives him a little bit of hope, but as Cammy said, the second touch just takes it away from him, and it's so blatant. And yeah, up until that second penalty, we did kind of, as you say, believe our own hype a little bit.
Yeah, huffed and puffed a wee bit. But then the second penalty was given, another foul on Jermaine Defoe. Not a lot in it, although I would say that at the time I thought it was an absolute stonewaller. Since then, there's been a bit of controversy with Steve Clark for some reason. I couldn't quite figure that out either. Saying that he thinks Jermaine Defoe should be banned for diving, despite the fact that Jermaine Defoe doesn't scream for the penalty, doesn't go down heavy, just instantly bounces back up and tries to get on with the game. Cameron, you're a qualified SFA ref. Who's right and who's wrong in this?
Do you think I'm honestly ever going to agree with Steve Clark?
I would hope not.
No, it's not. So it's not a penalty, and I'm going to be controversial. It's not a penalty, and it's not simulation. You can have contact within a box and go down and not receive a booking or be awarded a penalty. This is a really good point. Possible.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Cammy, and I want you to take a minute or two and expound on that for people, because I think that we are sometimes force-fed by the commentators. Danny Murphy's particularly bad for it. Oh, well, if he's not given a penalty, he's got to book him. No, he doesn't. And could you explain to people exactly what you mean by that? It's a really good point.
The idea basically is that if you're looking to be able to try and do simulation, it's to be able to try and gain effectively an unsporting advantage. Typically, so within my experience within this, this is where when you're looking at contact and when you're looking at what's obviously happened, I don't care what anyone says, a referee has one viewpoint, one angle, one opportunity to be able to make that decision. And actually for me, when I've been in that position, I have looked at the player's reaction, the striker, typically the striker's reaction, because what you'll see is a lot of professionals who will do it and then immediately look towards the referee because they're looking to see what the decision the referee is about to give. Defoe, when he gets, I don't even want to say tackled, but when he gets impeded is probably a better description. As soon as he goes to deck, he immediately tries to get back up for it. You couldn't tell Jermaine Defoe where the referee was at that point because he's not even interested in looking at him. He's trying to recover the ball and he's trying to go back to it. So you can get scenarios like that. It's very possible. It doesn't mean that it's a binary, either it's a penalty or it's a yellow card, because you can't have that. It's a contact sport. And you can stop a player, you can touch him, you can stop him, you can jockey him. Just because the player happens to go to ground does not immediately mean that it's a foul, therefore a penalty. So it's not a penalty. Don't get me wrong. I mean, of the four, this for me is probably the one that I think had the most amount of replays and most amount of scrutiny from the various media outlets. And for me, I would say no, it's not a penalty. It's not simulation either.
James Tavernier steps up, and I'll admit, Adam, right, being a kind of middle-aged Presbyterian Scottish man and all that entails, that I had, not at this particular penalty, but just in general, I've thought with Tav, he's on such a good run, he's bound to miss one sooner or rather. You know, he's gone so far with this that he can't just keep scoring, and I was worried it would come in a big game. So if he had to miss one, this was probably the time. Sends the keeper the wrong way, but unfortunately it clips the post. Makes up for it in the second half. If he had to miss one, I suppose this was the perfect way to do it, because he's missed one, it didn't matter, and he got back in the horse straight away.
He did. I'll come on to my views on the third and fourth. I'm sure Cammy will talk us through the actual legitimacy of other fouls, etc. But in terms of the whole who's taking the penalty thing, we'll come on to that a bit later. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's kind of unforgivable, this one, because he sends the goalkeeper the wrong way just about, I think, before he hits it, and to not just roll it into that corner, but take a bit of a heavier touch.
See, as you say there, you're right, because we all saw the keeper had gone the wrong way, but there was still time to wait for the ball to hit the post.
Your problem with that, though, was that Tav's in a really difficult position. It's a horrible position for players who take penalties to take two in the same game.
Aye.
Because what the keeper has done is gone on the assumption that he won't change from the first penalty. And again, if you rewatch the first and second penalties, the keeper makes the assumption Tav will put it in exactly the same place as he did with the first. So you're in that horrible coin toss of, do I just do the same thing and hope that the keeper thinks I'm going to do something different, or do I do something different and hope he thinks I'm just going to keep it in the same place? It's actually a really horrible situation for players to be in within the same game.
There's a simple way around that, Cammy, which is then you have a policy that nobody hits two penalties a match.
Yeah.
And I think Tav's done it before, and he's pretty, as he showed with the third, I think he's pretty confident. I don't have a problem with a guy going up, because I think that for skillful penalty takers, i.e. rather than just hitters and hopers, that they have a feeling that if they hit a good penalty, the penalty that they train to hit, because I think we've moved past this old-fashioned thing of, you can't practice penalties. Of course you bloody can. And I think that there's just a thing, if I put the penalty where I want to put it, I will score. But, it happens. He's an inch away from an absolutely perfect penalty. But half-time, wee bit flat round the stadium. And into the second half, the Rangers did improve. Made a substitution quite quickly. And it's an interesting one because, Adam, I have raved about Ross McCrory the last few weeks, I think deservedly so. But he was taken off after 57 minutes, after a pretty disappointing game, in all honesty. Ryan Jack came on and I thought played the role much better. It's such an interesting one because Ross McCrory, I think, is a brilliant player, but again, it might be the horses for courses thing. And strangely enough, he might be better in games when we don't have the ball. We had a live show at Ibrox on Friday night with Kevin Thompson, now a coach at Ibrox, but Kev said to us, he's one of the best young players he's seen without the ball, and he just has to improve with the ball. So matches against Celtic, Aberdeen, etc., where they're real hell for leather affairs, he is ideal. You just don't have him in your team. But days where you don't quite need that as much, and you do need people with more composure in the ball, at this stage of his career might not be his game.
I think that's fair. I think he did have a poor game. And he just got booked as well, so maybe there was a little bit of that involved. But I think you're right. I also don't think that two-man central midfield that we went to, I don't think he's mature enough as a midfielder to play that personally. I know we were 2-0 up, etc., but I'm not sure he's quite got that positional sense. He's very good off the ball, as you said, in terms of breaking things down and feeding counter-attacks, etc. But in terms of forcing the play and threading a pass through, there are other players who can do that. And like you said, Jack come on and had a better game from that respect. I'm starting to, you're right, different horses for courses is absolutely fine. I'm starting to think it's maybe more about how we approach or what players we play. I'm talking particularly in the midfield. If we play more attacking players like Davis, or even at times if we have Kent in there in a midfield three, who literally has been told to bomb forward and do kind of what Rogic does for Celtic. Just get forward, no defensive capabilities, but create another avenue. If we look at that midfield three in a different way, rather than what we've pretty much done this season, right, which is we're going to have a sitter, a passer, and a box-to-box. We kind of try and shove people into those positions. Jack's done the sitter role. Koulibaly's done it. Koulibaly's been the box-to-box. Jack's been the box-to-box. Davis has been the passer. We kind of have these three defined roles that don't really suit many of them. So if it's maybe just ways of getting more attacking players into the team by having a midfield three like that, then I think you're right. I think someone like McCrory might be able to sit out of these type of games and come in for the kind of bigger ones where there's more pressure on the defence.
I think sorry, buddy. There's an interesting point that when you talk about McCrory that my friend Kevin Thompson made on Friday, which was
I'm not sure he said you were his friend.
He did.
He said I was his friend. He said
no. He said I was his friend.
No, Cammy. He said on more than one occasion. Me and Davey. And how many times did he say? It's like I said to Davey the other day. How many times did he say that? I counted 7. That's how many times I counted. Because we're friends and we tweet.
You know, I tweet as well. Do you know what I mean?
No, well, we text. You don't have his number. I've got his number.
No, I stand outside his house.
Well, that's true.
But this idea of potentially dropping McCrory back and putting him into the back four for certain games, I don't think that's a bad idea whatsoever. The reason being is because what's interesting about McCrory is when you say that he's able to read the play, sometimes where he can do basic passing, he can do some short range passing. What would be quite interesting would be able to see if you've got guys like Kent and Candace, even potentially using them more in a 4-3-3, but using guys like that where McCrory can then at least put the ball forward to them. So he's going to hit it maybe 40, 50, 60 yards for something for them to be able to try and run onto. It starts to enhance that side of his game, which at the moment just now I think is pretty difficult for him to do within the midfield because it feels very contained, feels very tight. Maybe moving him back a bit gives him a wider spectrum to be able to try and do that. That could be something which at some point, you know, Gerrard might want to be able to try and experiment with. And games like St Mirren are good opportunities to do that.
And both of your best friend, Kevin Thompson, also said on Friday night that he thinks he will eventually move back to be a centre-half. And that was something that I'd called out a couple of weeks ago on the Tactics pod as well. That I could see that. I don't think he's anywhere near it just now, and his best position just now is defensive mid. But as he gets closer to his mid-20s or maybe even a bit later, I could probably see him taking a step back and being that kind of ball-playing centre-half who brings it out and pings those passes, as Cammy said.
Now, 1-0 after an hour, there was some murmuring started to go around Ibrox, and the angry man in my section was very upset by this stage, and every second...
Was that Martin?
No, it wasn't. I mean, we were talking about this actually at the game because I came in and I said, "Oh, I've got this guy in my section," and a couple of the boys from the pod said, "Oh, I've got a guy like that in my section." So I asked a few friends, and it turns out everyone has an angry guy in their section. A guy who just right from the start, "Oh, fuck's sake, this is fucking terrible. I can't believe..." The phrase that I got into that is, "I can't believe I pay to watch this shite." And I'm like, yep, that came at 2-0 actually, but at 1-0 he was positively apoplectic, and you're just like, dude, calm down, you know? Can't be good for your blood pressure.
I've got one behind me, and what I've not actually told you this, but the last time we sat together was the Aberdeen defeat before Christmas, and you kept agreeing with the guy behind me who is annoying and moans at everything, and you were like, "Oh yeah, he's right," and I'm like, "No, he's fucking not." But I didn't say it at the time, obviously.
What that is, Adam, is that I'm quite false. The reason I'm so popular, Adam, despite once you get to know me that I'm a right cunt, is that I have an innate ability to read people and therefore to play off to their personality, and then they come away and they go, "He's such a nice guy, he's such a great guy." Whereas in actual fact, I'm maybe thinking, "What a fucking bellend that guy is." So that's all that was.
It's as he used to be called, the master of puppets.
Yes, that's basically. I did just. People think they've met me. You never meet me. You meet my representative. You know what I mean? I'm inside my head in my happy place. Right? It's on my own.
This is all going a bit Patrick Bateman, American Psycho. It's like you just meet a shell. There is only a shell of David Edgar. There is nothing else inside it.
One of my previous jobs, they made me go and see a psychiatrist after episodes, and what she said to me was borderline sociopathic tendencies. I said, "What does that mean?" She went, "Well, it means you probably won't kill anybody, but it means that you could order it and not care." was like, that sounds about right.
Like the Big Bang Theory when Sheldon sends a robot out and with his face on the computer screen, that is essentially you.
Funnily enough, when we first watched the Big Bang Theory, Sally kept turning around at me and going, "You are Sheldon," and then Scott watched it, and he would be texting me as he was watching the box set going, "Holy fuck, you're this guy Sheldon." And there's a lot of him where I think, did they steal that line off me? But anyway, on to the second Rangers goal, which did arrive via the medium of a penalty. Cross in from the right-hand side. St Mirren defender jumps with his arms in the air, quite clearly hits the ball. Referee gives a free kick initially, looks at his linesman. His lineman runs to the edge of the box to indicate that it is a penalty. And the referee gives it. Right, this was right in front of me where I sit at Ibrox, right? I'm in the main stand. And it was right in front of me. It looked absolutely like it was inside the box. I would have sworn, not with blue tinted specs on, I would have sworn it was inside the box. On replay, it starts outside the box and quite clearly continues into the box. Cammy, did the ref get it right? I will defend, because I mean we have a go at refs and linesmen every week, and I will defend the linesman. From where he was, it 100% looked like it was in the box.
So where I was in the Copeland rear because I was using our friend Colin's ticket, and it was directly in front of me as well. So I think because obviously I've sat in your seat in the main stand as well, Davey, from our direction, we must have had probably quite a right-angled approach towards it, because obviously I'm looking behind the goal, you're looking side on, and it was in the box. I think your problem with that decision is the way how he's put his hands up, whilst I understand to protect himself. It's just a bizarre, unnatural position for him to be able to do that. Which
see this bullshit about you need to put your hands up across your face when you're jumping. It's natural. No, it fucking isn't.
No, but the thing is, the way how he almost like bows his arms in a kind of an inverse cradle, which more or less just kills the ball dead. And then when he lands and then the ball lands, it's inside the 18-yard box. So I thought it was a very good decision. I thought it was a penalty. I think the other thing is as well, because he is jumping towards the Copeland stand, that's what carries it into the box. So when he hits
he's jumping into the box, he's going backwards.
And a line I will use when we come on to the next penalty decision. If it's on the line, it's in the box. And it was on the line. And as I say, his momentum certainly has taken him further forward than it's landed. But you can see where that was. And I think, I was screaming for a penalty time when it happened. I was that convinced it was inside the box. So, no, a good decision by the linesman. Interesting that Dallas is copping it, because fundamentally it's the linesman's decision.
He couldn't have anything else. See, from where he was
stood, no, not at all, no.
He couldn't. And I've seen it now back plenty of times. I still had him think it was a penalty.
Well, that's the thing. We're having to see it back 5 and 6 times. I sent the still to you guys, and he does start outside the box. But what I hadn't realised on that, and as it probably comes more to the fore with the fourth penalty, is if the fouling begins outside the box and carries into the box, then Cammy, I didn't actually realise that the ref is actually following the laws of the game if he then gives it as a penalty. I just assumed wrongly that the foul originates outside the box. Yeah. He needs to pull it back. So by that, both of those are legitimate penalties then, because by the letter of the law, there is fouling happening inside the box. Where it starts is irrelevant.
And I thought it was a penalty. Now, this is when the shenanigans begin. Jermaine Defoe gets a hold of the ball. He wants to hit it. Alfredo Morelos, though, is rather insistent that he should get to hit it. James Tavernier walks over and says, "No, I hit the penalties," takes the ball, and puts himself under a lot of pressure, or had been put under pressure, because I think a lot of us in the stands were like, "You missed the last one," but he put it away, no problem. However, Cammy, you were a bit upset with what happened in the celebrations afterwards, and that one player didn't celebrate.
Yeah, so before I kind of go into that, what I will say is absolute kudos to Tavernier for the balls that it takes to be able to have that level of self-confidence, because I'm very, very much of the opinion that had he missed that, I don't think we would have seen Tavernier take another in-play penalty for Rangers again. So the fact he's got the balls to tell Defoe and Morelos to piss off while he can have another crack at it speaks volumes for his character. So very pleased with that. What I'm pissed off about is Morelos, in terms of he needs to accept his decisions and take it his way. So there is an argument to say that if you take away the petulance, the anger, the kind of negative behavioural traits of Alfredo Morelos, you lose part of his character and part of his ability and certainly part of his strength. That's a very valid argument. I totally understand that. That is not what this is. There is a difference between doing that and being able to accept your captain's decision and carry on with it. And the fact that he was the only player that didn't celebrate after Tavernier scored the goal, for me, I was really disappointed in. And I know that Arfield went over to him afterwards and told him to lift his head up and all the rest of it. I don't want players, especially strikers, not to be selfish. I want them to want the ball. I want them to want that penalty. I want them to be able to do it. So I totally understand all of that. But see, when the captain's made a decision, you fucking get your big bow pants on and you grow up and accept it. And I'm sorry, but with the best will in the world, Tavernier has got every right to turn around to Morelos and say, how many goals have I set you up for this season? Yeah, I mean, even if he wasn't the captain and even if he didn't have that authority, you're still talking about one of the guys who's provided bags and bags and bags of assists for him. So as far as I'm concerned, Morelos has to accept that decision and get past it and, join in with the celebrations of the rest of the teammates. He can't do this petty lip act when the captain scores a penalty after missing one and having the balls to make the decision to take it himself. As I say, I don't want to say that Morelos shouldn't lose the aspects of his character where it is about, that tough fight that, again, like you say, he wants the ball, he wants to be able to get it because it's absolutely who I want him to be because he's a bastard and I want him to continue being a bastard, but be a bastard to the opposition. Don't fall out with your teammates or your captain just because they've made a decision which then removes you from the thought process.
I'm kind of torn on here. I take your point, but a couple of things, I think. Firstly, as you mentioned, I don't get upset at strikers wanting to... I'd be more annoyed at a striker wanting to take a corner than I am at a striker who's desperate to score a goal. I hate when strikers are taking corners. You should not want to under any circumstances. But he's 22. He's a young guy. He's quite a young 22, emotionally. And he does need to grow up a bit, and he will over the years. But I was a little arsehole when I was 22. I was a little arsehole when I was 32. So I don't know. Adam, you're kind of casting vote on this one.
I'm still a little arsehole, so I'm not really sure. No, I don't care. Sorry. It doesn't bother me if he wants to. I don't think it was anywhere near as far as I've fallen out. I think he just wants to score goals and took the hump a little bit. And I take Cammy's point, but I also take the point of I don't want to do anything at all to deaden Morelos his edge or his streak. So within reason, I think that's totally fine. And with regards to the whole debate about the penalty, I can understand Tav not giving up the third penalty specifically. He just missed one and had another one come along very, very quickly like that. I think he would want to put it right. He showed great character to do so, as Cammy said. Obviously, with the caveat that whatever he does, he's still not captain material, as everybody says. With the fourth, and we're going to come on to it, David, but...
Can we just state for those who missed that Adam was being sarcastic there?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Not sure my tone came over. With the fourth... we're going to come on to it in terms of the actual foul for it, but just to finish that Tav point, I can kind of get why he didn't take that one, because he's kind of proved what he needs to do. He's maybe not bothered about getting a hat trick, or it's a selfless act for him to. It's more important to him for Defoe to get his first Ibrox goal in a game that's pretty much done by that point. So good character and great leadership, I think, on that one. Again, great leadership is not a quality that a captain will have. So again, that's sarcasm.
I think it's easy for Tav to turn around and actually give that penalty to Morelos. I really do think it is. And as I say, I'm not decrying what Morelos brings to our game. I'm really genuinely not. I just want him, and I'm starting to veer away from the whole. He's 22 and he's young and all the rest of it. 22 is not young in footballing terms,
No, but it is in life terms, and you're talking about him as a person. You're talking about an emotional reaction, which is him as a person.
It is, but the thing is, you're also talking about. Morelos is aware of the fact that we are building a team around him, and we haven't brought in Jermaine Defoe to replace Alfredo Morelos, and Morelos knows that. Plus the fact that he's just been given a new contract and all the rest of it. What I do want to be able to say to him though is, and where I would want to see that slight improvement within his character is just accepting that decision and saying, right, okay, fair enough, I get it. and it would have been easy for Tav to give him the next penalty, and he still made the decision to give it to Defoe, which I think was a harder decision, but well played to James Tavernier for making it.
Yeah, I think both of those decisions, the easiest thing for me to do was let Morelos hit the third penalty and let Defoe hit the fourth one. Obviously, with hindsight, you don't know you're getting a fourth penalty, or maybe we did, but
well,
I think those are two difficult decisions, and given the couple of chances Defoe had in that game, the chances he had against Cowdenbeath, I think he's thought it's more important to the team for two strikers to be firing, and therefore we'll give Defoe his first Ibrox goal when we are 2-0 up. The game is done. Unfortunately, Morelos misses out, and if he'd have given him the third one and have scored it, fair enough. However, you want to have to, in the back of his mind, when a penalty comes up Wednesday night or Saturday in a crucial game, you don't want in the back of his mind him thinking, fuck, I missed the last one.
Yeah.
At least he's going into those games thinking, I missed one, but I stepped up and scored, and I've also given Defoe one. So it was two difficult decisions, but I think it's worked out okay, and I think Morelos got over it.
There's probably a good listen, and it's a good compliment to Morelos for the fact that he doesn't give him the penalty because he thinks he's probably the most likely to get a goal from open play anyway. So again, there's a compliment there for Morelos in the fact that he's not handing him that opportunity on a plate, you know.
Penalty 4, really probably the one that has taken it into the realms of, well, you never see that, was a foul on Daniel Candeias, which, again, being honest, I burst out laughing at 4 penalties, and this one I thought was outside the box, but having seen it again, Cammy, on the line, and definitely a foul.
Definitely a foul. Bizarre decision-making process by the St Mirren player, because he is behind Daniel Candeias, and yet there are two centre-halves coming towards him. He obviously decides that he's missed out in the Six Nations, so he decides to rugby tackle him to the ground, which is absolutely bizarre. It starts outside the box. He still has a hold of him, and Candeias is now within the box even before the guy has realised where he is positionally, that he's going to concede a penalty. And again, it's one of those ones, even if it wasn't inside, if it's on the line of the box, it's in the box, and therefore you have to give it as a penalty. What I thought was really funny about this particular one was, I don't think the St Mirren players quite realised what had happened, because they had habitually started to form a wall on the edge of the 18-yard box, because I think that when they heard the whistle blow, they thought he'd given a free kick outside the area.
Initially he had, but again he looked at the linesman went in the box.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that, because watching it at the game, I thought he immediately pointed to the spot, but it could have been construed as he's obviously given a free kick in that, and to the team shooting in that direction. So I thought he pointed straight to the spot straight away, which is why I was like, well, from my angle, I thought, okay, yeah, he's either in the box or just immediately outside it, and I thought, no, the referee's obviously closer to it than I am with a better angle, so he's given it as a pen. I thought it's a clear penalty. It is a penalty. As I say, I have no idea what the hell that boy's doing, holding on to Candeias when he's trying to come into it. Biomechanics would also suggest, apparently, if you listen to certain idiots on a major sporting programme on a free-to-air channel, that Candeias upwardly dives in order to be able to get into the box, which is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. When a guy's holding you by your right thigh, how the hell you're supposed to get that level of trajectory? So again, idiotic. Candeias goes down, as he's absolutely right to do, because of the fact the guy's grappling him below the waist. And yeah, absolutely correct decision.
Cammy is obviously the guy among us who's got most experience of a guy grappling him around the waist.
Below the waist, David, below the waist. If we're going to go to court, let's get our facts right now, shall we? If
you've stolen the sheep, you might as well shag it. Adam, I thought you had a point.
I was going to say, just on Michael Stewart there, I think it's hilarious how he's trying to come across as balanced by saying the first penalty is a penalty, the next 3 are not, which is incorrect. The second one is not a penalty, 3 and 4 are definite penalties. But he says, oh yeah, but I definitely think the 5th one was a penalty. Now whether that's a penalty or not, that's
the foul in Morelos. Yeah, it was a penalty. It was.
But whether it's a penalty or not, that's him just saying, look how balanced I am. The one that never got as a penalty, that was definitely a penalty. I'm so balanced, when really 3 and 4 are the ones that he should be agreeing on a penalty, and it's ridiculous to suggest otherwise. As Cammy said, how is it even possible when you're being held back by your thigh to then jump
leap
into the box.
No, it's
mental.
Michael Stewart is a moron, shocker. It's not exactly man bites dog. But moving on then, Jermaine Defoe, we've kind of covered it. There's a bit of sclaff for the penalty, but he gets it, smashes it away. And Adam, I thought Jermaine Defoe had a pretty good match, actually. You can see that he's still short of fitness, but it's coming. He's got 2 goals in 3 games already. And I know people will say, well, one was a tap and one was a penalty. It doesn't matter. He's off the mark, confident, and I was really excited leaving the ground on Saturday. I thought he is going to score shitloads of goals for us because it's just what he does once he gets up to speed. And I'd maybe contrast that with Stephen Davis, who just hasn't gotten up to speed as of yet and had a pretty poor match, ended up being subbed.
Yeah, I think Defoe first looked much sharper than Wednesday night. If that's the difference game to game, then I think we're on to a winner, definitely. Lovely touches and layoffs. There was one in the first half. He laid the ball off on the edge of the box very nicely. He was very unlucky not to score as well later on. And as I'm sure we'll come to, I think his best piece of work was in the last goal. I think he's looking sharp. He's looking well. Whether he starts on Wednesday night, I'm not sure, or even Saturday. I'm also not sure. It just depends what we decide to do. I don't think anybody can really predict that at this time in terms of formations and lineups. And yeah, Davis does look a little bit more like he's not played any football in the last year or so than certainly Defoe does. He looks like he's struggling to get his rhythm and get up to speed with what we're doing. A couple of decent moves, etc. He probably was quite unlucky not to score as well in the first half in the lead up to the second penalty, I think it was. He's played a different role for Southampton when he did play than he's playing here. He's a little bit further forward, so maybe he's just trying to readjust himself as well.
Seconds later, Jermaine Defoe plays a great ball through to the onrushing Ryan Kent, who tops off, in my opinion, a man of the match performance with a lovely lifted finish into the net. Ryan Kent is so good, Cammy. He can go either way. He's two-footed, he's quick, he's direct, and I think he's playing with a confidence and a freedom that, by his own admission, he hasn't had so far in his professional career, and we've got to try and get this boy for at least one more year.
100%. I would get him at all costs. He's so fearless and dynamic when he's running with the ball. I mean, it's big comparisons, but when you consider some of the wingers that you and I have seen in our lifetimes, David, he's got a real opportunity to match, if not better, some of those guys that we're talking about. I think what's really great about Kent, for me, is he isn't one of these wingers that wants to be able to do the same thing all the time. So he's not a winger, for example, who...
He doesn't have a trick.
No, let's just get to the byline, let's get a cross in. Let's get to the byline, but let's come inside. Let's get to the byline and then double back and then pass back to the fullback who might be supporting. Or anything like that. What he wants to be able to do is with the variety, and I think Saturday showed in the first half, when obviously he does come inside, it hits a beautiful shot with his right foot, nice curler that obviously comes off the bar. But for the fourth goal, and obviously, as Adam said, when Defoe just plays him in, beautiful pass, opportunity to open his body up, maybe curl it, look to be able to try and slightly square on with the keeper, but no, he just puts in a beautiful little dink, takes it away from the keeper. And what I will say is, obviously the top is showing coming back to Defoe, that keeper had pulled out some genuine world-class saves by this point. The penalties, you can't really do anything with, right? So let's put that to one side for a second. But Defoe...
Three of them were great penalties, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, though, that from open play, Defoe tested him, at least once with a fantastic dig that the keeper did really, really well to get down low to and save with his right hand. So you're actually thinking, his confidence might not be too bad, but Kent just absolutely gives him the eyes and then puts a wee dink over his shoulder, and it was just a great finish. He's a great, great talent, Kent. And don't get me wrong, obviously the old fun game, we're talking about it after it, that, people played really well and there's a level and blah, blah, what have you. But Kent looks like he's just maintaining that form week on week. And he just looks like a tremendous asset for us as well. So I would absolutely do everything that we can to secure him. And I think the other good thing, and it's always interesting about loanees who come from big, big clubs, like Liverpool, obviously, that sometimes you might think, oh, I'll come up here, I'll do my time, and then I'll head back down the road and maybe I'll get like another move out to a club in England or somewhere more local to my parent club. I think he's really, really enjoying his football at Rangers. I think he's really enjoying, being part of the club, being able to try and play in games such as Old Firm game. He'll enjoy Wednesday night because I'm sure he's going to play in that. So I think he's quite enamoured with the club and the support and stuff as well. So if that relationship can continue to bond and we can get him longer term, absolutely get him snapped up as best we possibly can.
So there ends a game where a referee has tried to stop Celtic winning the title. A referee who's so biased against them, he gave them a penalty for a foul that happened about 4 yards outside the box in a cup final. But of course, that doesn't count. So moving on, Wednesday night, Adam, Rangers going up to face Aberdeen in a live match at Pittodrie with a poor recent record against Aberdeen, despite even throughout the last few years being quite good against them. Now, this is where the tactical discussion, I think, gets interesting because I think people are going to be screaming for the 4-3-3. However, that's kind of what we played against them previously, and in the previous two matches, we were woeful. Okay, the first one, we had Sadiq up front, less said about that the better, but we had Morelos in the second one. We're playing against 10 men for half an hour, and the 4-3-3 failed to even make a chance.
It's the context of the game for me. Like you said, the semi-final, they're just wanting to soak up pressure and try and get us to extra time, even get us to penalties or get the winner as they did. And the home game before Christmas was they would be delighted to come away with a point. They went down to 10 men and they sat in, and we can't break teams down, or we're not very good at breaking teams down. I think the obvious comparison is the first game of the season where we were excellent for the most part, but unfortunately didn't kill the game and lost a poor goal late on. However, the onus is on Aberdeen to win the game, really. Ourselves, obviously, because we always want to go in and win, but they have more to lose, I think, in terms of if they sit back for a draw. I can't see them doing that at home. Therefore, they will come out, I would expect, or as out as they ever do. And for me, 4-3-3, we're better at it now, undeniably, than we were on the first day of the season. We can not quite sit back and pick them off, but play the game that we played. Either the game against Celtic where we pressed from the off, or maybe something like Maribor or Hearts where we just take a measured approach and see how they're attacking and try and hit them on the counter. I think it really depends on what Aberdeen come to do. If they come and they're quite happy just taking a point and sitting back in their defence, or they want to come out from the off, will kind of dictate how we approach it. And if we play to our best, there's no doubt we can win it. And to echo Cammy's point, I think Kent should absolutely play. It should be the 4-3-3 for me that started against Celtic with Barisic and Katic in for Goldson and Halliday. I think Kent and Morelos are huge for us, as we were talking about there. They're the only two players that are unpredictable for us. I guess I mean that in a positive way. We've got a couple that are unpredictable in a bad way, but I don't think they'll be playing. And they're the ones that can disrupt teams. They're the ones that can play between the lines and play those passes and win those balls and get us a goal from nothing. There's not many of those that can do that. They're all a little bit predictable, effective, like Candace and like Defoe, for example, but they're predictable and they're nowhere near easy to manage. But when you've got two players like Kent and Morelos that can conjure things out of nothing, or go each way, or push the ball through your legs and make you fall over like Morelos can, and it really makes a big difference in these games. And I think we should go back to what we know for this one in particular.
Cammy, it's a season-defining week, and I don't say that lightly because 2 victories and it's all to play for. 2 defeats in the next 2 matches, and the season's looking like a bit of a damp squib. So I don't think we can overstate how important these 2 matches are.
They're huge, and the problem you've got with Aberdeen is it's Rangers, so therefore it's their cup final. Do you mean it's always been their mentality for about 30 years? It's just who they are now as a club, and obviously our presence defines what they want to be able to do. It's sad, really, but hey ho, that's obviously what we mean to them. I absolutely would be playing Kent and Candace with Morelos in there as well as a sole target. I think Candace gives Tav confidence and comfort, so therefore it makes him a better player. I want Joe Worrell that played against Celtic, not the evil brother that played against Kilmarnock. This game on Wednesday is a really good opportunity for some of these players to show that we can't just raise our game against Celtic and then hope for the best, because we'll still lose the league, because we'll take our focus off of teams who are not above us. We will start to lose focus on teams who are capable of getting points off us, which they have proven. So we need to go at this with a lot of intensity, which we didn't have to do against St Mirren, we didn't have to do against Livingston. So therefore, we've got the opportunity to do that now. What I would say as well is, in terms of this week, is this is an opportunity for us to use February. I know we've just literally finished talking about December and how that was a season within a month. This next 3 weeks for me, whilst they are still in Europe, will be extremely interesting, because now Saturday was our first 3 o'clock kickoff, I think, on a Saturday since November. But now we're in this position where we can start to gain points, and Celtic have to close a gap that we have shortened. They have to be able to obviously start to, increase that again, and we pile more pressure on them to be able to do that. That's absolutely what we have to be doing. The Scottish Cup on Saturday is our best chance, and I say that with a bit of deflation, because the league is going to be tough, and it's on a knife edge, the league, as far as I'm concerned. But the Scottish Cup is our best opportunity now to get a major piece of silverware for the first time in a very, very long time. And when you look at our progression, there's marginal wins in there that we can start to get back on track, and we've done several of them so far. We've been top of the league. We've beaten Celtic in the league. We need to get a trophy to be able to. So there is absolutely no understating the importance of Saturday evening's game. So I think we need to get the players to shape up, and we need to make sure that everyone's ready for that challenge. It's great to be able to play relatively routine games like we saw on Saturday against St Mirren, but this is when the metal meets the meat.
Yeah, it's a
what a terrifying vision that is. The metal meets the meat.
Well, Cammy, it gets up to some elaborate things. Have you ever heard of E-Stim? It's all the rage in Livingston these days. Not for me. Not for me. It's a bit like the whole Ice Cubes thing. It's like, where the fuck do you think you're going with Aimhead? No. So anyway, just about that's us for this week. But we do have time for our Total Hartson Award. That's when we look around the world of sport and see who has made the biggest dick of themselves over the past 7 days, with a comment or an action so stupid that it could only have come from the mind, or could also have come from the mind, rather, of John Hartson. So, plenty of contenders this week. It is in danger of being called the Michael Stewart Award, I must admit, because the guy is just constantly entering it. But I think that it would be a little bit too obvious. So, we'll start off with you, Cameron. Who have you selected?
This is really difficult, because I think most social media users who were at Ibrox on Saturday, the kind of feeling started to ripple around the ground of, I can't wait to see their reaction after this. There's been some absolute beauties. Our man Timo Mouse, who does get things spectacularly wrong. Really interesting to see about the fact that this was the second time that 4 penalties have been awarded in one game. Therefore, that's making history. Well, it's really not, because it's happened before. That's history. This is now just repeating the same thing that's already happened. History's
quite that's generally, to make history, it's generally, first time. People don't, nobody knows who the 312th man on the moon was. Yeah, exactly. There was another great comment where I think it was Andrew Dallas has awarded Sevco 7 penalties so far in his career, 2 in the last game and 4 in this game, which I just enjoyed the maths of there as well. I think I don't want to necessarily pick Michael Stewart, because I just think it's hilarious that a guy who has already been ragdolled by Craig Levine recently still has the temerity to question every decision just for the sake of being a kind of shock jock out of the back of it. And he doesn't even have the capability to be able to try and do that. But my one is going to be our man Timo Mouse, who said, this is making history, but it's already happened. Yeah, fair point. Adam?
Seeing as Cammy picked almost every single one that I had there, I'm going to go for Steve Clark. That today is mental, and David, I think you alluded to on the flagship. Can you imagine Gerrard coming out and saying in a Hamilton versus St Mirren game, giving his opinion on whether it was a penalty or not? It's just total. I don't even know if it is gamesmanship, as you alluded to, for the game coming up, or trying to put pressure on the referees. I think it's just irrelevant. I think it's just sour grapes that because they got beat on Friday night, that they think, when he said there's an offside decision in his game on Friday, it was offside and it was 3 metres onside. But he's moaning about an offside decision versus 5 penalties that he thinks only one's about. It's got no relevance to him whether or not we had all those penalties. Are we not going to win because we got 2 penalties or 3 penalties? It just is bizarre. And he, as you alluded to, while he's got the upper hand on us in terms of games won, etc., we kind of don't really have much of a comeback on it. But I'm hoping that as of Saturday, we kind of demolish that for him and just show it for what it is, which is just bitter pettiness that we won a game and they didn't.
Steven Gerrard hates talking to journalists about Rangers, and he's the manager because he hates journalists. Could you imagine a journalist asking him a question about another team? I couldn't give two shits about it.
Withering look would be given. I'm going to go for that cat that came on the pitch in Everton against Wolves, because I later found out from the Wolves manager, Nuno Espirito Santo, that it's bad luck.
That sounds like you were talking to him.
Well, yeah, beard tips and such like. I like him because at first I was like, no, I'm not having that. Guy looks like a tramp. But I've later found out that he lives the gimmick. He smokes 60 fags a day, and apparently
commits to it.
Yeah, they were having to basically rub nicotine patches on him during the tense matches, and I love that about him. But he said afterwards that it's bad luck in Portugal just to see a black cat, and it turns out the Everton manager, and people know I've got a fondness for Everton. Well, he's Portuguese, isn't he? So that cat. He's got 2 Portuguese managers to bring bad luck to, and he gives it to the Everton one. Although a lot of it, I think, is to do with the fact that Marco Silva, as is increasingly becoming apparent, is a fucking myth, and will be out in his arse soon.
I don't want to give it to the English market, but if you get the chance, please check out Paul Ince's recent comments about the fact that he could have done the same job that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has done at Man United.
Yeah,
it's hilarious. He's actually had to write a follow-up piece talking about the explanation of what he meant by saying I could do as good a job, which was, well, I've managed in all 4 divisions, yes, and you've failed spectacularly in all of them, Paul. Yeah. So congratulations.
I never understand that. I've managed at 18 clubs. Well, that means you've been sacked.
What was it he said? Everybody could see the problems that United had under Mourinho, and it was quite easy to solve them, really. Okay.
Yeah, it's not champ manager, Paul. But that'll be the next thing I'll be coming at. It's like, look at the season I'm having with him here on Football Manager. But I was slightly disappointed as well because it was a cat on the pitch, whereas everybody knows that football hasn't been as good since you stopped seeing dogs on the pitch. Because even men with steel hearts love to see a dog on the pitch. So that was a slight disappointment. But I'll give it to Steve Clark because, he's made with these mumbling, staccato, strange sentences that he puts together. And yeah, fuck off, Steve. And tell Boyd as well, none of us give a fuck what anyone from Kilmarnock thinks about our club. So do one. Okay, folks, thank you very much for joining us. Just time to thank our executive producers in London, Mr. Mike Lee and Mr. Paul Miles, to tell you that if you go to Heart and Hand's Patreon site, that's patreon.com Heart and Hand, that's patreon.com/Heart and Hand, you'll be able to get up to 5 shows every single day on all things Rangers, starting at just $1.99. Try it. You will absolutely love it. Thank you to my 2 guests in today, the wonderful Mr. Adam Thornton.
Cheers, guys.
The spectacular Mr. Cameron James Bell.
Thank you, gentlemen.
We'll be back on Thursday after the Aberdeen game. Till then, take care. Bye.